Morning to you.
Good morning, Senna.
I hope you're well, Doc.
Well,
Mm.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Being healthy is enough. Uh, well, let's start with your own expectations of Parliament as they resume today.
Well, I think you have a number of bills lined up, so the interesting ones. But I think that the one that agitates the mind of participants will be the incarceration of the Asante. And
Hello, Doc. I'm struggling to hear you, and I'm assuming that my listeners will be having the same difficulty.
okay, so I'm saying that
Okay, better.
yeah, I'm aware of a number of bills, that will be tabled. Um, It is just that the headings have escaped me. But the main issue that may agitate immediately the minds of parliamentarians will be the incarceration of the Asante Otchere North MP.
What about it should concern them? Because it's someone who had an arrest warrant out for him, and he was arrested. That seems normal. What should be Parliament concern?
Well, this is supposed to be a house of honorables, and we expect them to live above reproach. So the question that comes to mind will be the kinds of credentials people send to Parliament. Is it the case that the parties do a lot more of due diligence before people get themselves elected or stand in the name or contest the name of the party? That is the first thing. And when they do contest, and they win on the ticket of the party, is that all there is to parliamentary business? I think a lot more due diligence will have to be done with respect to people who qualify. This is not to suggest that the incarcerated independent member of parliament, Pastor Asante North, is guilty of anything. I think it is early days yet. But national security must be interested in those who run for MPship, because that's supposed to be a house where people bear the title honorable. And years back, under President Kufuor, what was the name of that person that got arrested?
I think it's Damusa Kande. Is it? No. It was another member of Parliament. His name has escaped me.
Yes, I had a name on my mind, but it just escaped. So, I mean, apart from what I've said, things of that nature equally affect the integrity of members of Parliament. They affect the integrity of the diplomatic corps. They tend to affect the public image, the international image of the country at large. And documentation, as it were, that comes from the fold of state institutions that have been earmarked for things of that nature also become a bit suspicious. This is not to suggest that it doesn't happen elsewhere. It does. But we should be thinking about ourselves rather than about it. And so I think Parliament will be so much interested in this.
Because there are those who else. I was just talking about it. By the way, the name you are looking for is Eric Amuatin.
Martin,
Yes. But there are those who are of the opinion that because he's a member of Parliament, at least we should have been informed. Our Parliament should have been informed. Our state security apparatus should know that there's a warrant out for a member of Parliament of Ghana that we shouldn't have been taken by surprise. Should Parliament be making those inquiries of the state security and also perhaps of the American embassy here in Ghana, because they said the warrant came from the Americans?
Well, so far the security apparatus has not come up to let us know whether they were aware or unaware. We have to assume they were unaware. And if they were unaware, what are the liabilities? That the whole member of parliament, is it because he doesn't belong to either NDC or MPP? That is why he was allowed, into the den of the wolves. As you said, the security will equally have some questions to answer. There should be a full parliamentary probe. Then the other thing too is that on the flip side, at the international level, it appears that America simply gets access to people that they need from our polls. What about those that we also need to equally come and give account of their stewardship? America has not been forthcoming with that. It's as if they always want to show that they are in control of affairs. I am, through and through pro-American, but I think that in this case we have been shortchanged, or they have been shortchanging us, and I think we may have to fix that. The other issue that is yet to receive or is gaining some kind of traction within the public space is the vandalization that happened during the session, and then what has happened to that. There is another one, two issues that people are talking about, and I think that equally indicts the integrity of the speaker, because this is a man that to be very forthright when it comes to issues of justice and then cracking their whip with respect to administrative lapses.
Please say that again.
Yeah, I am saying that the commotion that happened in Parliament, the report is yet to come out.
Okay.
And we do not know the punitive measures that the speaker intends to exact.
Okay.
Apart from that, there are some niggling issues with respect to people being hauled or intended to be hauled before the Privileges Committee. And we have been seeing some topsy-turviness with respect to issues of that. It's as if when it comes to upper hand. The other issue is the matter that particular parliamentarian who used unparliamentary language against the daughter of President Rollins, the late President Rollins. Yes. We are yet to see or come to a finality with respect to that case. It cannot just always be build, that here and there.
I see. So you expect to hear something from them in terms of what the outcome of the work done by the committee with regards to those issues are?
Certainly.
What that they have recommended? Or what they found? Because even in the case of the MP who said those words, there's no clarity as to who it was.
Exactly. And I think that it is not difficult to face that person out. It is not. They can just zoom into exactly where the voice came from. It came, not farther away from the minority leader. The other issue that I'm sure Parliament will be looking at is, now that we have exited from IMF, what are the issues? The CD appears to be sliding a bit against the dollar and the major currencies. I think this morning they were quoting around 4 cents. So it is something that government must be interested in. The finance minister, must be seen to be up and doing with respect to, fiscal discipline and other things. employment, like Feed Ghana, what is the progress that it appears that it's also a bit slowing down. Big push, the Feed Ghana, I'm told, is even part of big push, but in the Agric Ministry, they have distributed Nkukwankiting, and when the president cut short for the building of the plant, it was supposed to be replicated elsewhere in other parts of the country when they finish the one at Beijing. But what is the situation now? My sources indicate, because the grassroots, are complaining of jobs, though the percentage from 14 point something to 13 point something under the new government is still very low in terms of reduction in unemployment. And once the grassroots become a bit agitated, there is a need for government to take seriously the issue of unemployment, which was exactly the case with respect to the 2026 budget, right? So creation of employment, reforms, creation of employment, that is what is in the 2026 budget. But the focus of government ought to be in agriculture, not services. Not services. Because if you go into services to create some kind of artificial jobs for the youth, the teeming grassroots, it will collapse like NAPCO. That is why if you have a situation where a plant is being built to ensure that we cut down as a nation a poultry product from 95%, we are only producing 5%. Out of over 300 and something thousand tons, the country is producing just 15,000. The rest are all imported. So what is the focus? I'm told the contractor is still, building the plant, but they are not releasing money. They are not releasing money. So at the end of the day, the grassroots will complain. The grassroots will complain.
Okay.
You see, and then I've seen Mr. Felix Okosu-Pati also put in the media this jostling for the successor of Mr. Mahama. That in itself is equally creating problems within the party, because people's ambitions are clouding their judgment instead of ensuring that the president's legacy is built so that you can ride on that for success. You are outmaneuvering, you are undermining each other. Sabotage is the order of the day. And you could see that the executive secretary of the president, Dr. Kalistus, wrote a statement to that effect. Mustafa Bande spoken to that. Now, Felix Kwate himself, the government communication minister, has also spoken about this. So it means that it is a worrying issue. It is a worrying issue that they must discuss. Other than that, well, the president's legacy will be a thing of the past.
Well, that's it. The last part, can that be the preoccupation of Parliament? Because it seems you're raising a question that should be addressed more to the presidency and then the party to look at.
It is just an issue that is on the banner. The point is that maybe it is more for the majority side than the minority side.
That's true. That's true. In fact, it seems it's an issue that concerns many members of Parliament, but more to do with the National Democratic Congress. Look, before I let you go, I know perhaps you're monitoring these conversations around the MPP's claim of suppression of free speech in the wake of the arrest of Abronye, and the suggestions that this government is doing far more worse than, they admit that they've done something, but it's doing far more worse than they did, and that there's a need to put a stop to it. But if you've been monitoring, what are your own views on that? Do you think this government should be careful in the manner in which it approaches this kind of things, fake news, and maybe some conduct that is directly maybe an attack on the judiciary, attack of government? What do you think?
Well, it's as if people are engaged in popularity contest with respect to the MPP. The other thing too is that I see it more as a political strategy on the part of the MPP to muddy the waters for the current government. Other than that, I don't think that Ajua Jollof will say they are going to kill the president, and that is stupid. That is not stupid. It is gross stupidity, reckless abandon, fancy comedy, the kinds of things that they said. That is not freedom. Abronye, that is not freedom of speech. The rest, if indeed somebody said that Doomsday is back, and that is the reason why he was arrested, that is gross display of state power. And I will not subscribe to that. And others. But you see, it is very easy to lump all these issues together and think that everybody else is innocent and that government is clamping down on free speech. That is not guided by data. The data that came with respect to press freedom 2020 is the highest in 5 years. The highest in 5 years. Maybe what has happened in 2026 may affect them. But are we also suggestive of the fact that some people who call themselves political class, so to speak, are above the law? Are they above the law? We shouldn't get the impression that there are others who are not facing challenges with respect to state, security apparatus, who are non-politicians. And because they are non-politicians, they are less of Ghanaians. The other aspect, reckless speech by the youth organizer, is it deputy or
I think
organizer?
It depends on who you're talking about.
Salim.
Oh, he is the youth organizer.
He's the youth organizer. That they are going to weaponize and make this country ungovernable. When you say things like that, this is a breach. So if people are using reckless language in the public space, the state security, that must be preemptive, must look on. Just because it's just empty rhetoric. Definitely others should be emboldened to do same. So maybe there's a thin line between, clamping down on such gross display of vulgarity and then press freedom or suppressing free speech, so to speak. I think we must act responsibly. So now the other issue that I asked myself, but I said something to that effect on Twitter last night. It's the fact that when within the same party, people make certain reckless statements about others, defame within the same party, such people are hauled before the disciplinary committee. Is that not the case?
Yes.
If that is the case, it means that conduct is unbecoming of a party person. It is anti-party, and you are bringing the name of the party into dispute. That is why you are hauled before there and sanctions are leveled against you. Why is it that the same party feels obliged to support a person who speaks on the same tangent against your opponent? That is injustice of the highest order. And it is in gross display of indiscipline. So for me, I will end on this by saying that, well, as long as they are following the rule of law, some of us will support. But if they are not, then they must equally be very careful. Because karma, they say, is a bit. Then, apart from that, you see, I am giving advice not about it. They should check, and both NDC and NPP, they should check their registered members. They are not even up to 1.5 million. Both parties, registered members. I'm not sure they are even up to 1.5 million. But when the voting is done, you are able to talk over 6 million. Somebody is able to talk over 5 million. What this means is that these are not your members. These are people who are non-aligned, undecided, floating voters, neutral. These are the demographics that you must be interested in because they constitute the majority. Now, how do you attract these demographics? The type of politics that Abronye do will not attract these categories of people. Yes, as a leader, you may identify yourself with a member that you feel is separate. But I am advising the NPP that the type of politics, the type of vituperative language that Mr. Abronye uses will not attract that category of people onto the NPP for them to win the 2028 election. If that is what they are going to do, I have said it. If they continue that tangent, 2028, they should win.
Doc, thank you. Thank you for speaking to us.
You're welcome.
Dr. Jonathan Asante Otchere is a political analyst, executive director, Institute of Strategic Studies, join us on the line for a conversation on. So I brought in another issue. We're talking about the expectations of Parliament. I brought in the issue of the allegations of suppression of free speech that's been leveled against the government by the New Patriotic Party. He is of the opinion that you don't lump the issues together. It's a case-by-case basis matter. So we pick every case on its merits. He says if you arrest somebody for saying Dumsor is back, that he disagrees with. But there are some instances where he completely agrees with the manner in which the state has handled the matter. You know, queuing for your favorite watcher, we can accept it. If there's one thing that Ghanaians can relate to, it is queuing.